Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to take a look at recommended robots for your league for 2020. And a lot of what I'm going to tell you today is based on my own experience, both playing my own account for the past 6 years and also my baby account, which just happened to be a side project. And for those of you who are interested, 1 year ago, I started an account from scratch and I took it from private league to champion league without spending any money whatsoever. So if you guys are interested in this ongoing project and you would like to follow along, I will leave a link to this series in the video description, and there should be a card that appears in the top right corner of your screen, and you can check it out. But yeah, let's get started with this. Okay, so right now I do have up on the screen basically a breakdown of leagues from private league to diamond league. I think at this stage of the game, so important for players to save their gold and open up a fourth hanger slot. Okay, so as you can see here, I have 4 hanger slots. And the other thing that you want to focus on at this point, and this is more specific to domination and beacon rush. I'm not going to cover free for all because that's a whole different beast on its own. And also a lot of what I'm showing you right now can actually be applied to free for all as well. So I figured this is probably the best way to go about it. So what you see in my hanger, other than the 4, hanger slots, is I have a beacon runner, okay, which is the Gareth here. I have something with range, which is the Doc with Columbus. And then these 2 bots here are basically my brawlers. So at this stage of the game, from private league to diamond league, you want to focus on silver items. So basically silver robots, silver weapons is where you need to be, and also don't level it up too much. I'll explain, why I say that, but let's go to the store. Okay, so the Gareth, as you can see, is silver. The Natasha is silver as well. The Doc, as well as the Leo. Okay, so you want to focus on silver items and not to level it up too much, because as you start approaching closer to expert league, your robots and your weapons are going to change. So it makes sense to kind of save up, your resources as much as you can, because you're going to need it later on. In terms of, what I have here, I'm pretty heavily focused on things like Punishers, Thunder, and in the case of the Doc, Columbus. In terms of leveling it up, okay, so I think the best way to actually explain this is to take a look at the Doc. Now, I know some players level up like 1 weapon at a time. So for example, let's just level this up to level 8. Okay, so because my general rule of thumb, as I've said in the past, always make it so that your weapons are 2 levels at least higher than your robot. So in this case, we have a level 6 robot, level 8 Columbus. But the thing is, I wouldn't level it up the way that you see over here. I would actually do it one by one, spread it out across the board. And my reasoning behind this is because if you have a level 8 Columbus and this is the Columbus that gets blown off, you now have to rely on level 5 weapons. So instead of taking that approach, if I were to level this up to level 6, so let's just go ahead and let's just do that. And, this one's also level 6. If I were to go into battle, and let's just say this weapon were to get blown off, well, that's okay, because now my other weapons are level 6. And in this case, if I had this level 6, this would also be level 6. So I'm kind of hoping that makes sense. You don't want to upgrade just one weapon and then the others you don't upgrade at the same pace, because if that upgraded weapon were the weapon to get blown off, you tend to lose a lot of firepower. So that's kind of why I upgrade in that kind of order, if that makes sense at all. So yeah, definitely have a range build. I like Columbus because of the splash. Anything that has a physical shield, it doesn't really matter because I'll do damage to them. And then really focus on things like the Thunder and the Punisher. But once again, don't upgrade it too much. In terms of robots, I guess you could get it to level 9 to get max speed. For me, I didn't find that it was necessary. In terms of weapons, because you are going to be changing your weapons as you approach expert, which we're going to talk about in a bit, I wouldn't upgrade it more than, I think, level 9, because again, everything is going to be changing, and you're going to need those resources in order to level up, the other stronger weapons. So before we move on to Expert League, here are just a few recommended setups, specifically for leagues private through to Diamond. And we have the pattern with Punishers here, and just remember, if it's a level 6 pattern, try to get your Punishers to level 8. I don't think I would actually upgrade it higher than that, because as you approach, Expert, Master, and Champion, your robots and your weapons are going to change. So you might as well save that silver for when those changes happen. But yeah, we have the Pattern Punishers, we have the Leo with the Thunder Pinatas, the Natasha with the Thunder Pinatas, the Griffin with Punishers. And, these are just alternatives to what I showed before. We had, the Gareth, and I think we had the Leo, Natasha, and the Doc. But those are just a couple of recommendations that I can offer you. And I think it's time to move on to Expert League. And I'm going to show you, what to look for in Expert League and what to build towards. Okay, so you've just reached Expert League and you are wondering, what do you do at this point now? Okay, so my first bit of advice is to make sure you have all your hanger slots open. You can see I have all 5 open up here. And the reason why you want to do that is because with an extra robot in your hanger, it allows you to get more damage, more kills, capture more beacons, and all of that results in more honor points. So why do you need more honor points? So we're going to take a look at that. Let's just go back to the main hanger here and to these tasks. So we take a look at the bonus tasks. All of these tasks are based on honor points. Okay, so the event coins, the platinum, all of this is based on honor points. And if you are in a clan, things like this, getting, Nightingale components, if you get 1200 honor points, is going to help you build items a lot quicker. And in the case of events, you are going to be able to get more event coins quicker. And if you save up, who knows, you might get something like a Ravana, a premium prize. And that's actually what happened to me on my baby account. I managed to win a leech from one of the events. So definitely really helpful having, these coins here to help you out, especially free players. And another thing too, if we take a look at the battle reward crates. Okay, so let's see, Expert League. Once you reach this crate, you're going to be getting more silver, more power cells, boosters, components, all of these items here. And that's going to help you progress and build a stronger hanger as you move your way up to Champion League. So, these things I think are really important, having that extra bot in your hanger. So hopefully you guys can see, why I always tell players to open up all their hanger slots is because it does make a huge difference. So, what kind of hanger composition should you be looking at this point in the game? So when we looked at Private League to Diamond League, we had 1 beacon runner, 1 range, and 2 brawlers. But now we have an extra bot. So we have 3 brawlers here, more focused around, doing more damage. And what you're going to start to notice, the use of more gold weapons. So weapons such as the Tehran, Storm, and Avenger weapons, I would say are my top 3 choices when it comes to gold weapons. But you guys are going to see, players running the Orkan, Magnum, and Gust as well. So in terms of my hanger here, and what bots I was running when I was in Expert League, the Gareth, I actually had Orkan and Magnum on my Gareth at the time. I also had the Boa with, I think it was Ember and Punisher T, but since the Boa is kind of extinct, you can't get it in the store anymore. I decided to just put the Leo in. And then we have the Fujing with the Terrans. Ignore the weapon levels for this. In fact, when it comes to actually upgrading beyond level 9, I would say the Storm and the Avenger weapons are the only gold weapons I would take beyond level 9. So I guess that's a bit of a tip there. I also built towards the Natasha with Avengers, and then I think I had the Doc, and then I won the Leech as well. But what I'm going to do now is actually show you other recommended builds you guys can try out for Expert League. Just keep in mind too, though, that as you approach Master and Champion League, you are going to be building more towards component bots and weapons in order to compete at that level of play. So here are a few more robots you guys may want to try out if you are in Expert League, the Bolt with Gust weapons. This build, I would not level up beyond level 9. The only reason why I'm mentioning it is because when I was in Expert League and I was running the Gareth, one of the issues I had with the Gareth was that I wasn't able to get to home beacons quick enough, and because of that, I wasn't capturing any beacons with it. So if beacons kind of affects honor points, you can see why I'm mentioning the bolt, because I was actually considering, this build, or at least the bolt, when I was in Expert League. So yeah, we have the bolt here, then we have the Leo with the Redeemer and Magnums, the Griffin with the Turan and Magnums, the Natasha with Avenger and Punishers, and this build is pretty solid. I remember doing really well with that. We have the Dark here with Storm and Orkans, and the only weapons I would level up beyond level 9 would be the Storm here and the Avenger weapons. So, that's pretty much, what I wanted to share with you in terms of, what to run in Expert League. So let's move on to Master and Champion, and you're going to see, how things are shifting from silver to gold and now to components. Okay, so you've just made it to Master League, and you are going to start to notice a change in the landscape of the game. So more players are going to be running, component robots, component weapons, and if you do run into a Champion League player, which you most likely will if you are in Master League, the chances are they probably have more upgraded equipment. So at this point, what do you do? So one thing you should know about Champion League players is they tend to focus on three main things. High damage, speed, and also strong robots. And what do I mean by strong robots? I don't mean MK2 level 12, although they most likely do have that. What I mean by that is, does that robot have a lot of health? Does it have resistance, especially in the current meta? Is it a bot like the Ravana, where if you fire at it and it's using its transcendence or the ability, it doesn't take any damage? These kinds of bots can survive for long periods of time. And these are the bots that Champion League players tend to gravitate towards. And there's another thing too. These players tend to be highly aggressive, and you will see it in their builds. Okay, so they might be running things like the Loki with Rhyme, or with Shredders, or maybe the Strider with the Calamity Spark, or in the case of what you see here with the Phantom Ignite and Blaze. I actually run this on my baby account, and it's a really effective beacon runner. Not many players know this, but the Phantom at level 1 actually has max speed. So if you combine, the speed, the firepower, and also it has resistance when you use your ability, it has all the ingredients that make it a really strong bot, in Champion League. So you're going to start seeing that in the case of like range, anything like the Aljung with Avengers, or maybe even Viper. I also have a Leech with Scourge here, and this is an interesting one because this one actually has a range of 600 meters, but it's actually more of, I would say, a brawler because of the mechanics of the Scourge weapon. It actually does more damage at close range. So this one is used both as range and as a brawler. And sometimes you actually see this quite often, especially amongst top players. They tend to run more actually brawlers, sometimes even 4 brawlers and a beacon runner, because the game is a lot faster, and if you combine it with that kind of aggressive play, they can close the gap pretty quickly. So just a tip, amongst the top players, you are more likely to see them run close range weapons because they just do more damage, not so much range. They actually have very little range, sometimes no range at all. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Another thing too, quite often they tend to run multiples of a bot. Although I do caution players on doing this, like running, 3 or 4 Ravanas, whatever the meta is at the time, because quite often the game goes through a rebalance period or the meta shifts, and if you have invested into like 4 Ravanas and the game changes, you then have to do that again. So you have to be very careful of doing multiples of any bot. I prefer to have 5 different bots. Again, this is just my own personal preference. Also, when it comes to weapons, what I have here. So we have, for example, flames, we have shotguns, we have cryogenic weapons, Avengers, and like Scourge-like weapons. So I try to mix things up just in case of any kind of rebalancing. That way, I'm not at high risk of these changes. So I think that's one tip I can offer players. Definitely do that because it saves you a lot of time and resources as well. And I guess one last thing, when it comes to upgrading, what should you expect? So at this stage of the game, when you are in Master and Champion League, try to get your bots to at least level 9 if you can, because at level 9 you have max speed. And, when it comes to your weapons, MK1 level 12 and higher. So I think that should be sort of the standard, and obviously the higher you go, the better it is for you when you face these, high level players. But other than that, here are a couple more recommended builds that you guys can try out for Champion League. The Loki here with the Rhyme weapons, the Blitz Shredder works really well, especially with the Blitz Pilot. The Fenrir with the Ember and Igniters, the Tia with Blaze and Cryo weapons, or the Ares with the Pulsar and Spark. So, these all kind of work in Champion League. It really depends on the situation and also the style of play, of the player. And you guys can actually let me know in the comment section, what you think of this guide or this tutorial, because I'm thinking of doing something very similar, maybe for Titans. So you guys can let me know in the comment section, and I think that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't yet subscribed, consider subscribing. Until the next video, I'll catch you guys later.